Hello and welcome back to my channel if this is your first time here. Hi, I'm Cassidy. If it's not, thanks for always tuning into my videos. Today we are doing the Get to Know the Fantasy Reader tag, which I will have the original tag linked in the description bar below. Since, you know, I love fantasy, I figured I would do it. That's all. Question number 1 is, what is your fantasy origin story? What got you into reading fantasy? I think as far as I remember, I was reading fantasy, but the books that really stick out to me in my head as a child is the Warrior Cat series and Fablehaven. I loved the Warrior Cat series, and I feel like that one is it's obviously like a little fantastical with like the cats having clans and like talking, and then I was obsessed with Fablehaven, and I still love Fablehaven to this day. I've reread them a couple times. One of the only books I think I've actually reread, and I just loved that, and I loved the you could drink this and then see this fantastical world in front of you. And yeah, that one, I should reread that one. That one's a good one. Question number 2 is, if you could be a hero in a fantasy novel, who would be the author? And what's one trope you'd love to have in the story? This one's kind of hard. I think I would say Robin Hobb, even though that's setting me up for the most tragic hero life ever. I just set myself up for sadness, but I think I would say Robin Hobb because I just love the way she writes her characters. And I would obviously, for trope, I don't know if it counts, but I want a dragon. I literally just want a dragon. Give me a dragon. Or an animal companion. I just want an animal companion in general, but I would like it to be a dragon or a flying cat. That would be good too. What is a fantasy you've read this year that you want more people to read? I don't know if this counts because technically I haven't finished it yet. I'm only 30% in, but I'm gonna go with Illborn by Daniel T. Jackson. I'm already loving this book and I think it's gonna be so great. I think it's gonna be a 5-star. I'm already seeing it 30% in, and I'm gonna push this book on you. What is your favorite fantasy subgenre, and what are subgenres you haven't really read a lot from? I love myself a military fantasy or a political fantasy. Those are probably my favorite subgenres. And one that I haven't read a lot of is any kind of whimsical, lyrical book. I don't really like those. So I go away from them. We don't need them here. Who is one of your auto-buy fantasy authors? I actually don't really have one. I really base my books off of what they're about, not necessarily the author. The closest one probably comes Brandon Sanderson, and even then I'm just not interested in his middle grade series, so I'll probably never pick that one up. I really don't have an auto-buy author. I'm not solely obsessed with an author enough to pick up anything they've ever written. R.F. Kuang could fall into that because I loved the Poppy War trilogy so much, but I'm not so sure I'm gonna love her newest novel, so we will see. If I like that one, she will probably become an auto-buy, but it's really dependent on that one. Same with S.A. Chakraborty. I need to read more from her before I can decide if she will be auto-buy. Next question is, how do you typically find your fantasy recommendations? I get a lot from fellow booktubers. I follow Mel from Mel Lenore Reads, JD Ray Reads, Jolene Reads, Brightness Katie Reads, Erin from Booked and Busy. I have a lot of booktubers that I follow to get my fantasy reads. There's also Library of a Viking, and I do get a lot from Instagram as well. And then I do a solid amount of searching, but a lot of my searching is still on YouTube, trying to find underrated lists and stuff, or just browsing. Oh, also Rachel for @ArgentRave on Instagram. I get a lot from her too. What is an upcoming fantasy release you're excited for? There are a couple. Justice of Kings by Richard Swan just came out. Same with, I think, City of Dusk. And I'm excited for both of those. And then in April, The Bladed Faith comes out by David Dalglish. And I'm super excited for that one. I literally can't wait to get to that one. It'll be my first time trying his work. And if I like that, I will definitely be continuing with more of his work because he has such an extensive backlist. What is one misconception about fantasy that you'd like to lay to rest? I think I would just like to say that fantasy is a very broad category, and lots of people just say they hate fantasy in general. And I think that you should try different fantasies before you decide. You may not like a Game of Thrones type fantasy, but you may like a Invisible Life of Addie LaRue type fantasy. They're very broad, and I think people just categorize fantasy into one whole slump. I mean, I do it with contemporary. I don't read contemporary, but I actually haven't tried enough contemporary, so I need to expand to see if there are some contemporaries that I will like eventually. If someone had never read fantasy and asked you for recommendations, what are the first 3 books that you would recommend? This one is so hard. I think I would put Mistborn on this list as it is like a more high fantasy type book. Probably, can I only do Sanderson? Because like Mistborn and Elantris are both, I feel like, up there on that list for me. This is so hard. Maybe the Mirror Visitor Quartet by Christelle DeBow. I think that one is a very different type vibe from Mistborn and Elantris, and you can kind of blend those together and decide where you are. And probably the David Bad Trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty. I think I would probably tell people literally start with the David Bad Trilogy, because I think that was an incredible work of art and has a little bit in there for everyone. Yeah, David Bad Trilogy, Elantris because it's a standalone, and the Mirror Visitor Quartet. Who is the most recent fantasy content creator that you've came across that you would like to shout out? Oh my god, there's so many. I'm always trying to like grow my watch list. I think if you are interested in more like indie books, Dominish_books is really good for that. And then one that I've really been reading often is Grace Dion. I think that she has some really good fantasy books that she's always interested in. And that's all 10 questions, so there is the Get to Know the Fantasy Reader book tag. As always, I am not tagging a single person to do this. I just say if you would like to do this, please count this as your tag and tag me in the video as like, ooh, Casty tagged me. I'm too lazy to find people to tag that haven't done it, not gonna lie, so take this as your tag. Please do it. And if you made it all the way to the end of this video and you'd like to leave me an emoji to say that you were here, leave me a thumbs up emoji. Nice and simple today. And have yourselves a wonderful day, guys.